Well, hey everyone, my name is To, and I'm here today with Dr. McDowell. I'm super excited to have you here for video blog number 3. So super excited to have you today. So let's get started. So, why is the Black Women in Sports Foundation important right now?
I love that question, especially being a Black woman.
That's right.
So if you think about Black women, historically, and you think about what's going on with us today, we've actually achieved a lot. And we have done that in the face of many barriers and challenges. And so, but what tends to happen is, in my opinion, our experiences start to be relegated, especially let's focus on experiences in sport. They tend to be relegated in larger conversations about African Americans in sport. The focus tends to be on Black men. And then we start talking about women in sport, the focus tends to be on white women. And so to have an organization like this, where the focus is on Black women, that's needed. An organization, that's highlighting the achievements, that we have, that's letting our voices be heard. That is something that is definitely needed in this time.
Wow.
And then even when you think about what the foundation does at the program level, being able to provide opportunities, and it's not just opportunities within sport, it's also opportunities outside of sports, because when you start looking at some of the connections individuals get because of their involvement with Black Women's Sport Foundation, that's an important role that this foundation serves, is allowing those connections that people might not have ever had before.
Wow. Thank you for that answer. That was deep. That was deep. So with that saying, how did you get involved with the foundation?
So I have been involved, and I'm hoping I'm remembering correct. I believe it's been 3 years, but this is one of the things I was telling you about when you think about people's connections. So in 2008, I was finishing my dissertation, and the focus of my dissertation was Head Black Woman in Charge, an investigation of how Black female athletic directors, how they negotiate, their race, their gender, and their class identities. And so when I was doing that, one of the individuals that I reached out to was Dr. Alpha Alexander. And I interviewed her in 2008 at the NCAA convention. It was actually held in Atlanta that year. And interviewed her, and I remember just loving her spirit, loving that conversation that I had with her. She was so authentic, and she really shared a lot with me as far as what it is like being that Black woman in that leadership position. And I remember at the time when I collected that data, I was only able to identify 13. And understand that just covers NCAA institutions. It does not cover some of the other national governing bodies. But even by the time I collected data, that number had dropped to, it was either 10 or 11, because some of the women either left their position or some unfortunately got fired, in those positions. But I stayed in contact. And that's why I said that's one of the benefits of having a foundation like this, is because you can build those professional networks. And so, as I say, this happened in 2008. I stayed in contact with Dr. Alexander. When I was working on a book chapter, I reached out to her again and said, hey, I want to profile you in my book chapter. And so that's what I did. I reached out, interviewed, profiled her in the book chapter. Another time she reaches out to me, said, hey, I have a undergrad student who's working on her senior paper. Can you reach out and can you talk to her? And I did. I followed up with that student to kind of help her with her senior. So we built those connections. And yes, about 3 years ago, she reached out to me again, and she was just like, hey, the work you do and everything, she said, have you considered, would you be interested, in being on the board? And of course I was like, yes, because I said, this is something that fits me professionally and personally. And so I was definitely happy that she reached out. But yeah, that's how I became involved, was through that connection with her that started with me as a doctoral student.
Wow, way back. Thank you for sharing that. What's your favorite memorable quote? Do you have any quotes that sticks to you?
There's a lot, but I'm going to share the one that I actually keep in my office. It was from Marianne Williamson. Some of you guys might remember she was one of the ladies who ran for president. But what she said is, she was like, it takes courage to endure the sharp pains of self-discovery rather than choose to take the dull pain of unconsciousness that will last the rest of our lives.
Deep.
And when I heard that, it really resonated with me, because a lot of people, this is what happens. They don't want to do that self-discovery. And that's why she said the sharp pains of self-discovery, to look at yourself, to be introspective and look at yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses. Sometimes getting a good understanding of who you are can be painful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it brings up memories that you wanted to suppress. But the alternative, as she said, is that dull pain of unconsciousness, where you know there's things that you need to be dealing with, but you choose to just kind of say, okay, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to get a good understanding of what's going on in my life. Why am I doing certain things in my life? Wow. That's why I wrote that in my office. And so every time I come in here, it's right there. You can't see it in this picture, but it's right there on my whiteboard.
A daily reminder.
It is, to do that self-discovery.
Thank you.
That's needed. You cannot lead anyone else, and you can't even improve yourself until you know yourself. And that's what people need to do a better job of, is taking time to know themselves.
Preach! Preach! Thank you for sharing that. So what is your favorite sports memory or moment?
So I am a former high school track and field coach.
Okay.
So it probably will not come as a surprise that one of my favorite moments is involved, deals with track. And I'm going to go all the way back to 1988. Yeah, to Florence Griffith Joyner or FloJo. I've got to go back to that moment because, as you and some of the viewers are aware, she got the world record in the 100-meter sprint, and she still holds that, from 1988. And every time I watch that video and you see that lead that she took, at first she's with the girls, and then all of a sudden she just took this major lead, in front of everyone. It's just amazing for me to watch. And about a month ago, I was watching, I have a 3-year-old, and I was watching her in soccer practice. And honestly, she reminded me of FloJo. I'm going to give my baby props. Because they were doing sprints at the beginning. And the same thing, I'm watching her take this lead in front of all these little girls and little boys. And I was like, go FloJo, go.
Oh, that's so cute. That's really cute.
I was like, you can do it. And then you even just think about this moment. Usain Bolt, I believe his record is like 9.58 or something like that. So she was only about 1 second slower. And people a lot of times don't really think about the significance of that. A lot of other women, they have not broken that 11-second 100-meter sprint. And so that, to me, is just a significant moment.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Your daughter's going to be great just by hearing.
Yeah, so, she's definitely fast. I'm a little slow when I try to talk. She's definitely fast.
So who's an influential Black woman or mentor or any role model that has influenced you in your life?
I'm going to have to honestly go with the first name that pops up in my head. And this might be something a lot of people say, but I really have to say my mom. And it's because she has not always had an easy life. But one of the things I've always told her, and even my grandmother when she was living, that they are strong women, that they have faced barriers in life and challenges in life, and they've always remained strong. But the one thing that I like about them is they're authentic and caring. Honestly, yes, I'm biased because that's my mom, but in my opinion, she is just one of the most genuine and caring people that I know. And that has a reflection on me and who I am. And so that's why I tell people, when you look at a role model, sometimes people look outside of their house.
Yeah.
A lot of times we need to look inside of the house and realize I would not be who I am
Wow.
if it was not for my mother.
That's so true.
If it was not for some of the sacrifices that she made, for me. And so when it comes to how does she influence me, she influences me every day, because honestly, the things that I do, yes, for myself, but I also do them because I want to make my mother proud.
Right.
And so when I decided to go back to school in 2005 to get my PhD, yes, it's because some people have always told me I was a nerd. But I told people I didn't just do that PhD for myself. I did that PhD for my family and for my mother, because my family, we don't come from a history of people going to college.
Right.
A lot of people in my family don't even have a high school degree. And so it made my mother very proud to be able to say all 4 of my kids have a high school diploma.
Wow.
And so then to have your baby, as she would say, your baby go on to get a master's and then to go on to get a PhD, to see the joy and the happiness in my mom's face, that's what motivates and encourages me every day, that I know I'm making her proud, and I'm going to continue the rest of my life doing things to just make her proud and to realize that this is what she gave this earth.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And we have had a lot of people answer their mothers as their role model. That's amazing. So tell me, are there any simple steps a coach or a manager can take to introduce diversity and inclusion practices?
So the first step is you got to know what you're talking about. So that's the first thing. You have to have a good understanding of diversity and inclusion, some of the issues that your team or your organization is facing. And so a few years ago, and I've shared this with folks, Will Smith, the actor, former rapper, he gave this statement, and he basically said that diversity is America's superpower. And he was like, that's why we're great, because we have so many different people from so many different places. And he actually referred to it as kind of like a gumbo, all these different people in this big gumbo pot. And I remember listening to that, and I was like, you know what? He's right. Diversity can definitely be a superpower. But the part that I felt that he didn't talk about was the inclusion. Because if you don't focus on inclusion can kind of be like kryptonite. It can weaken the benefits of diversity. So sometimes it can weaken it or it can enhance.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a good understanding of what both of those constructs mean. What does diversity mean? What does inclusion mean? And then what are the issues your team or your organization is having in relation to both of those constructs? That to me is the step that's needed before you can put any type of policy or practice in place.
Thank you.
Because if you don't, trust me, you will not have an effective policy. If you don't have that's the first step that needs to take place.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hopefully everyone is writing that down. So could you share with us what field you're in? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
So I am a college professor. I've actually been in education over 20 years. I'm trying to think of how many years. I've been here for a long time. I started off at the high school level. So I was a high school biology teacher, and I was a head cross country and track coach. And then I did freshman basketball and freshman volleyball. And then went back to school, and I moved up, and got my PhD to become a professor, which was one of the greatest decisions that I've ever made. And so that's what I do right now. I am an associate professor of sport management, and I'm also the academic program coordinator for the Kinesiology Undergraduate Program here at George Mason University.
Ooh, Lord. So with that said, your field can often be stressful. What activities do you do to stay healthy and reduce stress?
Great question. Because when you are trying to navigate a lot of things, trust me, there's definitely a lot of stress involved. And so one of the things that I actually do, there's a few things. I joined the gym. I'm an Orange Theory person.
Okay.
And so, I go to Orange Theory twice a week. And I love that. That is my outlet. I feel like something is missing if I don't get my 2 workouts a week, in Orange Theory. And I think that is something that's important. A lot of people, when they become stressed, they quit exercising.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that exercise is not just the physical benefits you get, it's also the emotional and the mental so that's why I realized when I got so stressed, I quit working out. And I had to realize that I had to kind of stop, put the pause button and say, no, this is an important part of your well-being, is to get out there to exercise. And so I also do, I'm an outdoors person, coming from Texas. I like being out in the country and stuff, but I do nature walks. And so me and my 3-year-old, we go usually every other week. We find some type of park and we actually go on a nature walk. And that I really love. I take those walks with her. I introduce her to different types of plants, and we hunt for animals that we can find out there. And so that's a big thing that we like to do.
Wow.
And then the other part that I would say that I have done, I disconnect. I turn off the computer. There's times where I will go old school and just start handwriting stuff because I want to turn the computer off, because a lot of times there's temptations to check your email, to go to different websites, to do this and that. And so that's why I make sure now that I do that for at least during the time where I'm working, for at least an hour during that work period. I try to check out and say, no, I'm not going to look at my emails. I'm not going to click on different websites and check out things. And I do the same thing with my phone. People that know me know that I am known for putting that phone in another room so that I don't even have to hear it, or putting it on silence, because we are just too connected nowadays with technology. And so I just think for our well-being and our mental health, we have to check out sometimes and have that peace for ourselves. So that's what I do.
Thank you for sharing that, especially now since COVID and staying at home, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Everybody's behind their screen 24/7.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see. All right. So last question. What would you like to share about yourself as a leader that you want others to know?
So as a leader, I think most people that I have worked with, they realize I am definitely goal-oriented, and I am definitely task-oriented with trying to figure out the most effective and efficient way that we can accomplish tasks. But the key thing that I think defines me as a leader is that I am definitely relationship-oriented. That I think it's important for your athletes or for different employees that you work with, for them to know that you support them, that you're on their side, that you care about them, not just as this athlete on your team, or not just as a co-worker or employee, but you actually care about them as a person and realize that they need that respect.
Wow.
And so when you cultivate those type of relationships, that makes being a leader in any type of position better. Because once people know that you care about them, they care more about the job.
Wow.
And so that's how I define myself, is really a relationship oriented leader, because I like to lead that way. And I also like to work for leaders and managers. Remember, 2 different things. Sometimes managers are not always leaders, but I like for someone to care about the relationships, not just the task.
Well, thank you for sharing that so much. I enjoyed, listening to your answers. So hopefully everybody who's tuning in enjoys the same thing. Well, thank you.
You are definitely welcome. I enjoyed talking to you today.
Well, we'll see you guys for video blog number 4. Stay tuned. Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day.